Well, Seattle hockey fans, I said I wanted 3 points in the last 4 games, and we did that and then some with an overtime victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning off of the stick of Jase McCann on the power play. Let's recap last night's game and get you ready for the week to come. This and more on tonight's episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Erica L. Ayala, your host from the very beginning. Want to let you know that today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers on FanDuel get a $150 bonus bets package with any winning $5 money line bet. That's a $5 money line bet, and you get $150 in bonus bets from FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOnNHL to get started. As I mentioned in my open, the Seattle Kraken were able to come out victorious. Now, it wasn't always the prettiest looking game. We're going to talk about some stats and facts. The third period left some things to be desired, but at the end of the day, they don't ask how. They ask, if you got the win or not. And the Seattle Kraken did get their first ever franchise win against the Tampa Bay Lightning last night. I mentioned the game-winning goal came off of the stick of Jase McCann. He had a goal and an assist in this game. And you can see here that the shots overall for the Seattle Kraken, 43-37 in their favor. I want to break down the shots in the third period in particular. 2 for 3 on the power play. It was a power play goal in overtime that got the Seattle Kraken the victory. Faceoffs were still not quite where we want to be with faceoffs. Tampa Bay Lightning at a 60% clip. We were at a 40% clip. And then hits 17-14. A lot of things that I really liked in this game. If you are a part of the Locked On Kraken Insiders community and you're a part of the game day thread, you already know that we heard on the broadcast that JT Brown was talking about puck retrieval in the offensive zone, talking about possession. I think this is probably the best game that Seattle has played from a possession mentality and mindset. I do think, though, that wavered a little bit, and you don't have to take my word for it because Jase McCann agrees with me. Dave Hakstol does not, which I thought some of his comments were very interesting. But what he did say, and what a lot of people really loved, including John and JT on the broadcast and our crew back in the studio, Kailer Yamamoto had quite the game. One of the goal scorers, I'm going to go through all of the goals here in just a second, but Kailer Yamamoto, young player, I talked on yesterday's episode that we're really going to have to see that fourth line step up. And it would seem that Kailer Yamamoto, early returns, he might be the player that we're looking to. I want to, as I mentioned, talk through the goals. The first goal of the game scored by the Seattle Kraken. It was none other than Brian Dumoulin getting his first as a member of the Seattle Kraken in the first period. Yanni Gourde would follow that up. Schultz and Schwartz assisted on the Dumoulin goal. Yamamoto and McCann, I mentioned he had 2 points on the game. And so there you go. Kailer Yamamoto, he would get the assists from Schwartz and Tolvanen. Jaden Schwartz, another player that a lot of people noticed, had a great game. And who was it? I believe it might have been Well, McCann was talking about Kyler Yamamoto. I'll get to that in a little bit. But Jaden Schwartz having the kind of quiet game. I think it was on NHL.com/Kraken where they mentioned this, but having the kind of game that I would argue you need from veteran leadership. So really liked that. Now, again, we did relent the lead. That's unfortunately been a little bit of a theme. But if you listen to yesterday's episode, I talked about if the Seattle Kraken can lead through 2 periods, that statistically speaking, small sample size, last night was just our 10th game on the season, that if we can win through the first 2 frames, that we're in good position. That being said, we did give up the lead in the 3rd period, and just kind of backbreaking work there, not able to clear the zone. We're not great at exiting our own zone. I've mentioned it on with the Locked On Kraken Insiders a bunch of times. I've mentioned it on the podcast a bunch of times. So even though I loved last night's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning for what we were able to do in the offensive zone, in the neutral zone at times, and definitely in our own defensive zone, we have to start cleaning things up. That being said, the defensive effort I did think was a little bit better for the majority, not for the whole game. I don't think we've played a complete 60 yet, but for a majority of the game, the Seattle Kraken was looking pretty good. Here are some of the things that Dave Hakstol said after the game. He talked about that the road trip, there were a lot of similar themes: getting a lead, not being able to maintain a lead, going into overtime, getting hemmed in their zone. I'm adding that last piece, but these are some of the trends that we've seen in the the 4-game road trip that ended in Tampa Bay last night. Now, this is what Dave Hakstol said that I disagreed with. Let me know in the comments how you feel. This is going to be about the 3rd period of last night's game in particular. He said that he did think that the Seattle Kraken could have pushed for more possession. I agree with him. But he said that he felt the Kraken were in control in the 3rd period. I disagree with that last piece. I do agree they should have pushed for more possession, and you're going to hear from Jase McCann and his interpretation of that. But to say that the Seattle Kraken were in control in the 3rd period, I wholeheartly disagree with that. And the stat that I'm looking at in the 3rd period, shots on goal in the 3rd period, 13-5. 13-5 in favor of the home team, Tampa Bay, especially in the last 5 minutes of the game. After they get an equalizer, they then obviously forced overtime with that equalizer. There were some dangerous looks that Tampa Bay had. Now, with respect to Grubauer and Schultz, and of course Schwartz, and Jared McCann, Schultz had a great game too. Yamamoto had a great game. The post might have been the MVP for the Kraken as far as defense, if you know what I'm saying. There were a lot of near misses for Tampa Bay and just hitting the post flush. Now, shout out to Philip Grubauer, who had to scramble. Wasn't always pretty, but he made the save. I think Philip Grubauer was great for us in that game last night. But there are definitely, we've had some bad breaks in the last 10 games. This wasn't one of them, if we're being honest, which means that there's still more to push for. But yeah, it's that 13-5 shots on goal. Yeah, I'm not with it. I'm not with it. But there's something that Jase McCann said after the game that I think is interesting to talk about. Also, you'll hear Jase McCann in just a bit talk about Kyler Yamamoto. Dave Hakstol also asked about Kyler Yamamoto. He's not always so forthcoming with his praise of his players, but he agreed with what JT Brown was saying on the broadcast, felt it was Kyler's best game. But here is what McCann had to say after the game. and then we'll break it down.
A little bit different than we talked about earlier. Kyler had that power play goal earlier. What do you think, what aspects of his game make him a good asset to the power play?
He's so shifty. He's hard on pucks. For his size, he wins a lot of puck battles, and that's what you got to do to be able to score goals, especially against this team. They got a lot of big bodies, like I said before, and he was awesome for us tonight.
How much of a difference does it make on a plane ride going back now across country to be able to pull this one out?
Yeah, it makes a 6-hour plane ride a lot easier for sure. We thought we played awesome on this road trip, but it's over with now. We got to focus on the next game.
You guys created so much offense in that first period. What do you think just allowed you guys to? You guys tied the franchise record in shots in a period. Just what allowed you to create a push like that?
We're keeping our feet moving. We're just getting pucks to the net. Our D did a great job of getting it through their first layer. They have a lot of guys who can block shots and are good at it. So, got to attribute that to them.
Did that stop at all in the third period? Yeah.
We kind of lost it a little bit there in the third and let them back into it. We just got to, full 60.
Sorry.
You're good.
Similar to the first 3 games of the trip, just the blown leads. Was there any similarities to them, or?
No, just I think it's just dial it in defensively. That's when you're playing with a lead. Sometimes you think about just sitting back on your heels and letting them skate into you and skate by you. But I think we need to play a little bit more offense when we're down, when we're up. And we need to keep our feet moving, stay on their D. Good. Yeah, no worries.
We have to play more offense when we are up. I want to talk about that when we get to the other side of this quick break here on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Now listen, I talked about on yesterday's episode, I got a kick out of looking at, there are specific odds just for Connor Bedard. So that's just a little bit of a taste of what you can get in when you go to FanDuel. You can get all kinds of spreads, player props, over-unders, future bets. We talked about that a lot with Matty Beniers last year, and so much more. We have a game coming up on Thursday, and we'll give you some of those money line and over-under bets. But right now, don't forget, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. $150 in bonus bets when your $5 money line bet pays off. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now is the time. Check out the Bedard odds. Check out the Stanley Cup odds. There's so much you can check out on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NHL and NFL season right. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the National Football League. Today's episode also brought to you by BetterHelp. Listen, I end our shows here on Locked On Kraken saying the same thing. Be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other. And sometimes you just need a little bit of help to get and gain perspective. And BetterHelp is a way to do that. If you've ever felt like your brain is getting in its own way, like you should do what's good for you, but you just can't find a way through, maybe you need to talk to someone. And BetterHelp is a type of therapy that can help you figure out what's holding you back so you can work for yourself instead of against yourself. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time. So again, be kind to yourself so you can be kind to others. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNHL today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNHL. That will get you 10% off your first month. And again, be kind to yourself. Check out BetterHelp. Thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. In the first segment, you heard from Jared McCann. I loved what he said about making sure that not only is the Seattle Kraken team dialed in defensively, but that they don't let teams like Tampa Bay back into the game. I mean, set a franchise record for shots on goal in the first period. We love to see that. It was a fantastic first period. Love the pace. It was highly entertaining hockey. But then things got a little bit out of control. That 13 to 3 shots on goal in the third period. And Jared McCann attributed that to, he used the term being more aggressive offensively when they have a lead. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. It's kind of a running joke in sports, but sometimes your best defense is your offense. It's not impossible, but extremely difficult for your opponent to score when they don't have the puck. And that's a little bit of what we have seen, certainly from the Seattle Kraken in the game against Tampa Bay. But now let's take a look at how the Seattle Kraken are faring through 10 games. I want to, let's go to NHL.com. I want to take a look at the standings, because at the end of the day, we have to figure out where the Seattle Kraken fare when it comes to the Western Conference, certainly the Pacific Division, and overall the league. And so I said that we could leapfrog, if we focused on some things, and lo and behold, we were able to get 5 points from the last time we looked at the standings. And that's put us kind of, just about middle of the pack. But we're trailing the Vegas Golden Knights, who are having a fantastic start to their season. The Vancouver Canucks have really stepped it up. The LA Kings are exactly where I thought they would be. And the surprise for me is the Anaheim Ducks. But again, I've said it before on the podcast. I'll say it again. The Pacific Division for so long has been a team with high draft picks. It was inevitable that we were not going to be kind of, the stepchild of the National Hockey League for much longer. Now, the Sharks, they've got a whole nother thing going on. We can't really speak to that. But we've got the Oilers and the Flames, on our heels here. But we're in striking distance of the Ducks and the Kings, who are both sitting with 10 points. And we'll have some opportunity to get more points and to gain more momentum. But there are definitely some things that the Seattle Kraken have to do if we want to be competitive, if we want to move up that board in the Pacific Division. Now, we were able to make it as a wild card in that 4 spot, but I don't want to take a chance when it comes to that. I want the Seattle Kraken to be able to get things done on their own accord. Right now, we sit 26th in the league out of 32 teams, and there are only 3 Pacific Division teams behind us. Also in the Western Conference, of course, you've got the Blackhawks there, and those are other teams. But we have to make sure that we are winning games in the Western Conference, that we are winning games in the division for sure. And a part of that comes from protecting home ice. I want the Seattle Kraken to be a 500 team at Climate Pledge Arena. We haven't really seen that yet. And we're going to need to see it soon, because in the playoffs, the momentum shift that can happen from a home crowd is massive. But we also saw that in our playoff run last year, the Seattle Kraken weren't able to capitalize on that as much as I would have liked. Other numbers to keep in mind. So we're 3-5-2 through 10 games, 8 points, 24 goals for, 33 goals against. We have 3 players that are leading us with 8 points overall on the season. That's Schwartz, Oliver Bjorkstrand, and Vince Dunn. And both of our goalies have seen 5 starts. This is not something I thought we were going to see, especially with Joey Daccord. And if you had told me this at the beginning of the season, I would have said something is dangerously wrong with Philip Grubauer. That's really not the case. Now, it's still a bit of a puzzle, a bit of a mystery to me why the Seattle Kraken presumably plays so differently for Philip Grubauer when he gives us starts early in the season. But I'm okay with our goalies splitting time. I think this is great for us in the long run. Now, we haven't talked about Chris Driedger, who, of course, is the starting netminder with the Coachella Valley Firebirds. We'll have time to talk about him later in this week and also throughout the season. But maybe this is what we needed. It feels uncomfortable right now, but I'm here for this competition. I'm here for this equitable split in net. I do think there will be a time in the season where Philip Grubauer pulls away. I do think that Philip Grubauer has earned another start, just as Joey Daccord earned his starts from how he was playing. So we'll see. We'll see how things pan out. Not where I wanted the Seattle Kraken to be through 10 games. The good news is it's only 10 games. So we got to keep an eye on some things. Defense, is one of them for me. Goaltending, not an issue, but something to keep an eye on. And I do think that we have to be better. We have to be better at closing out games. We absolutely cannot lose focus. It's going to be an issue later on in the season. So that's something that we've got to figure out. I think we also have to start getting Matty Beniers more integrated. I want to see Eli Tolvanen a little bit more of an offensive force. We'll see how that plays out. But coming up next on Locked On Kraken, let's talk about, I know we talked a little bit about pride and the whole fiasco with the National Hockey League, just showing, I don't even know what you want to call it, but I want to talk about what the Seattle Kraken are going to do. And it is Halloween here as I'm recording. And shout out to the Coachella Valley Firebirds who had Fuego, not the mascot, as in fire, Dia de los Muertos jerseys, Day of the Dead. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the week. But we are going to talk about the specialty jerseys for the Seattle Kraken and how you can see them on display not too far from Climate Pledge Arena. That's coming up on this episode of Locked On Kraken. Before we get to that, I want to make sure you know that today's episode of Locked On Kraken also brought to you by the Sleeper app. Now listen, it's totally possible that the Seattle Kraken hoist the Stanley Cup at the end of the year. Maybe Matty Beniers goes on to score 50 goals this season. The NHL season brings all kinds of possibilities. And you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. Now, you can pick what players you want to take for any particular week. And again, with some of my Locked On Kraken insiders, you talk to me about your fantasy leagues and who you're picking. You don't have to commit to an entire league. You can play day to day. You can play daily fantasy hockey in the NHL. You can also do NFL, NBA, MLB, Canadian Football League. There's so many options. And you can also chat it up on the app. Entries can be made in under a minute, so it's super easy. So we want you to head over to the Sleeper app, use promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and that will give you up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply, but make sure to use that code LOCKEDONNHL. And also check out Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, Seattle Kraken fans, thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. We're going to get you out of here by talking about the specialty jerseys. Now, Bob Condor over on Kraken.com has a great article. I'm going to skim the article as in on the screen. But these are the things that I think are important. In wake of whatever the heck the NHL is doing, which is stupid, the Seattle Kraken have still found a way to contract local artists to have the jerseys be auctioned in favor or in benefit of the One Roof Foundation. They're still going to have the option, if you don't want to bid on a signed jersey, you will have the option to buy the merchandise in store and online. They'll be available 1 week ahead of the official day of celebration. I'm going to go through those dates for you in a little bit. And then this is what I really love. I'm going to read this directly. And some of you probably, if you are part of the depths, I know it's been a minute since we said that, the depths, and if you just kind of keep up to date with the Seattle Kraken newsletter, you probably know this already. But I want to read what Bob Condor writes here. This season, the Kraken are excited to reveal the full collection of specialty jersey designs all at once. And this just happened yesterday, as a matter of fact. Fans will get a chance to see an up-close look at the jerseys from all three Kraken seasons and learn more about each artist at the A&T Gallery Jersey exhibit. The gallery is located on the northeast corner of Climate Pledge Arena on the Seattle Center campus. Fans can explore the exhibit from October 30th, yesterday, through November 25th, Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Here are the dates and the details for the specialty jerseys. And let me know in the comments, what are your favorites? I definitely have a few that have stood out to me. But first, we have Indigenous Peoples Night coming up on December 9th. So a week before December 9th, you'll have an opportunity to take a look at the merchandise that will have Bethany Fackrell's design. I love this design. You can also see the anchor alternate logo there. It's beautiful. Now, the design for the S honor and respects Native children who never made it home. I love that we don't always tell just the beautiful history. We tell the painful history as well through art. And I love this. The intention of Bethany's artwork is healing. So important. And so, again, you can kind of read more about this. The dog salmon as the S with a moon behind it. I love that. The tribal story of the dog salmon stole the creator when she was a child, and after many years, the child was discovered by the blue jay. I mean, just so much Native history in here. So I love this design. I love the colors. I love the feather. I think this is beautiful. One of my favorites, not just of this year, but of all time. The Lunar New Year, also really, really like. Juliana Kang Robinson is the artist here. You see the S design here, but it has almost kind of that, well, I'm just going to read it because I don't want to misrepresent and say the wrong thing. But so you'll see that in this jersey, it's a traditional Korean motif with black, white, yellow, red, and blue, which is used in Buddhist temples. It's the dragons. That's what I was thinking about. She's talking about dragons from Eastern culture, especially Korea and China. I was thinking of the dragons you see in China a lot. Were viewed as auspicious and benevolent bringers of rain and clouds. So there you go. If that's not Seattle, I love that. This is a beautiful one. And just that anchor, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. It's got the scales. I love this design. Black Hockey History Night. Barry Johnson is the designer here. It reminds me of season 1 in a lot of ways. The anchor, though, has the peace and unity sign as the anchor becomes that unity symbol. Here we go with Barry's S mark. It has the Pan-African flag colors, which emphasize a story about fighting oppression and racism. The mark of the anchor incorporates the Space Needle and introduces the peace sign, representing love, equality for all, and nonviolence in the face of inequity and civil rights issues. Really like this one. Again, reminds me definitely of the season 1, which I love that design. Women in hockey, this one I really had to take a look at, which I love that Allie kind of gave me a design that I couldn't pinpoint right away. But obviously you see the fish influence there. You've got the red glare. Women in Hockey Night is going to be on March 8th. So Spurlock is creating art that reflects the Alaska Islander lifestyle. So she has a special fondness for creating things, works from things that have outlived their original purpose. I think that's so interesting. But she really gets the fishing motif and wildlife of Alaska here. She talks about the beauty, detail, mystery, and toughness of sea creatures. Oh gosh, I love that. I love that. And the anchor, you can see, also represents that, a little bit raw, rough, and rustic. I love this. Pride Night. Yes, the Seattle Kraken will have a Pride Night on March 28th. That's actually my sister's birthday. I have 2 sisters. They're twins. Happy birthday, Jesse and Alexis, in the future. They're going to be playing Anaheim on Pride Night, and Nikita Ares, I love this design. It reminds me of like, I forget what that little thing that you used to doodle on as a child is called, but you can see fully representative on the spectrum. Definitely takes a unique artistic design when it comes to the secondary anchor logo. The S logo embraces the shades of the rainbow to symbolize diversity and pride, which, if we're being honest, wasn't always embraced. So I love this, and I love the focus on it. The anchor mark will transform into a heart and a rainbow. And then Bob Condor writes, gotta love that, to emphasize unity and support within the hockey community. Yeah, now more than ever. I feel like this one's going to be very, very popular. The Pride design usually is very popular. And then you have Green Night, of course. Hey, a New Yorker just like me, Sarah Robbins, moved to Seattle 10 years ago. The S, you can see, has this beautiful blue. It's floral. The red glare is represented in a flower. It's represented and intended to appear man-made to represent Seattleites and their shared environment. The subtle tentacle on the original primary mark is exaggerated into a long-reaching vine in the Kraken's deep sea blue color. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. And you can see the anchor is kind of that similar vine, leafy vein. Love this. So if you are in Seattle, unfortunately, I am not at the moment. Might make it later this month. But definitely go check out the exhibit. You'll also get to see the other specialty designs on display. Stick taps to the Seattle Kraken. I think what got lost in this whole debacle that the NHL absolutely fumbled is the artistry. That's always been my favorite part of these specialty jerseys. Some teams, honestly, have done terrible at it. Other teams have gotten locals involved. They've gotten communities that are underappreciated involved. And I don't mean like LGBTQ, Black women. I mean literal communities within the community that they represent. The communities of Seattle, the greater community of Newark, New Jersey, thinking about the Devils. Like, there's so many ways that teams, Vancouver has I think, traditionally done a really good job, that they have tapped in and created fans of hockey, not where they didn't exist, but where maybe they didn't feel appreciated, which is the whole freaking point, right? Of hockey, it's for everyone. Anyway, I might go off on a rant. Right now, I want to say stick taps to the Seattle Kraken. If and when I'm in the Seattle this coming, I guess next month, technically, we're not in November yet, I'm going to let you know, because I do want to stop by the gallery, and I think you should as well. So a reminder, you can stop by, Wednesday through Sunday? I want to make sure I get it right. Yes. Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the A&T Gallery, which is on the northeast corner of Climate Pledge Arena at the Seattle Center campus. With that said, as I mentioned earlier for the BetterHelp read, be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, and let's show a lot of love for our Seattle Kraken team who are maybe not where they want to be. They're not where I want them to be, where we collectively want them to be. But again, we're disappointed, but we are not out of this, fam. This is a resilient team. And I'm looking forward to that resilience on display. We get to see our guys next time they hit the ice is Thursday against the Nashville Predators. And Ann Kimmel and I are doing a squad cast, aka a squid cast. So make sure you tune in for that. Until then, like I said, I'll say it once again because it bears repeating. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other and hold fast, stay true, and loud and proud. We say always and forever, let's go Kraken. I'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.